Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy. This is going to be a review of the new mousepad lineup from Razer, the Gigantus V2 Pro. In total, there are 5 pads. I have 4 of them. The max speed version is not available yet. But really, if you guys are expecting like an artisan type lineup with a HIA and Type 99, Zero, and like a Raiden equivalent, that's really not what this is, which at first I was kind of disappointed by, but then as I used them more, I accepted $50. These pads are on Amazon for, it's 500 by 480, not 500 by 500, but a large square-ish mouse pad available like pretty well. I actually do think there is merit to a few of these pads, but to show what I mean about there not being like these crazy differences, one of these pads is the max control, and then the other one is just the standard control. I think most people would guess the max control is this one on the bottom, but it was actually the one on the top. They're all listed at 4 millimeters, but I swear, this is my first schizo theory. I think the control, it just is like more dense, and it like, when I press it with my finger, it's much harder for me to get to the table. Whereas with the max control, I can just like press in and feel the desk underneath it almost immediately. And these are supposedly using the same glide core base. But yeah, this max control, if any of you guys know how like the Lethal Gaming Gear Jupiter, the GSR, like Kurosan Shogun they play slower than this and like much more muddy. So the max control, I'd say it's like kind of closest to a Type 99 like X Soft. So yeah, surfaces don't feel one-to-one, but they definitely have a similar feeling on your arm, on mouse skates. If you do use dot skates on an X Soft pad like the max control, you will definitely get some scraping, so I'd say it's like designed for full-size skates. And yeah, it was a controlled experience, but even when pressing into the pad, I found the normal control version to just be a slower, more dense, like the experience had more tug. So yeah, I don't really know what to say there. Again, like these are mouse pads, they're going to be usable. I just feel like these could have been one pad. There is no need to have 2 that are so effectively similar. And the speed version is also not necessarily a speed pad. So, like the lineup and the naming is kind of weird, but the pads themselves, they're really fine. I can't really, like if you want a controlled pad, something that's going to have high dynamic friction, especially, you're like me and you use full-size skates on like a normal sized mouse, the control version is going to play very slow, especially in the summer. It's getting more humid. Like this is going to be affected by humidity, I imagine, and made even more like muddy and controlled. So a lot of these surfaces feel very similar to things I've felt before. So even like the G640, just like that style of like finish, the smooth feeling that you're gonna get, it's going to be familiar, especially if you've used a good number of cloth pads. You obviously get the green base, which you really can't notice if you're worried it's going to be like distracting when it's on your desk. It just looks like a normal mouse pad. But yeah, for my preferences, both the control and the max control are just a notch too slow, and like I could use them if I wanted a slower experience, but it's just not like what I'm used to. The balance, on the other hand, this is very close to like a Saturn Pro. It's not a mid, I wouldn't say. Like there is a bit of plushiness to it, but again, not anywhere near the control or max control. So it's just like your standard, I'd say, I mean like a 2024 mousepad. But honestly, compared to the Saturn Pro, it's a bit softer and it doesn't have the same like kind of raw texture feeling. That is a bit more closely replicated with the speed version. But this balance, it's just like it's a nice cloth surface. It definitely does meet the category of balanced. It's not as smooth and quick as something like the Zebra Artisan Zero. None of these pads, there's like no true speed pad in the lineup. I don't know if that's why they've held off on the max speed version, but I will say that the speed version, it's not the max control situation where it plays like slower than the balanced. But the biggest difference is going to come with the lower initial friction, just like a lighter glide feeling and a raw feeling version of the texture. It's funny, after like putting time on those other ones at the start of this video, it really is apparent that this is like a gritty, rough cloth surface. But if you do want the speediest experience, it's definitely going to be this. And of course, everything I'm saying is with my skate testing, like the amount of pressure I put, your mileage may vary. Yeah, the speed version was the one I definitely put the most time on and enjoyed the most. I use it pretty interchangeably with the balanced version. And again, they say speed and it may make you think it's going to be like an Artisan Raid and QCK speed, something in this range. But no, it's just like kind of a speedy, textured for a cloth pad type of experience. So on one hand, I get what Razer's goal was. It was like to make a cloth pad for everybody, and this does cover a lot of preferences just in the control and speed versions alone. Like if you want a lot of tug, high initial friction, a very like dense, thick feeling with a plushy base, you can go for the control. And if you want something that is just on the speedier end of cloth pads, nothing like innovative that we haven't seen before, but that's pretty much what the speed is. So these were good pads. They weren't especially exciting. But yeah, these were some of the most highly requested mouse pads to review that I can remember anytime recently. And I guess it's just because Razer hadn't released like a serious mouse pad since the Strider in like 2021 or whatever. So yeah, this is, I mean, it's nice. Razer has a cloth pad lineup now. The Max Control and the Control are a bit redundant in my opinion. Like some people are probably going to be overwhelmed by the options, but if you know like your general preference, I don't think you can go wrong. And yeah, these are undeniably high quality, but it's nothing that's like groundbreaking for mouse pads. You can see the stitched edges like pretty much level with the surface. It's not like the edgeless mousepad design we see from Vaxi, Launda, some other companies, but that's not needed in my opinion. And the speed and balance, they have this like kind of like quasi-soft, it's definitely not like close to a mid as far as the base is concerned, but yeah, it's not going, you're not going to experience any sink in really. Yeah, one thing to know is that these do come rolled up into a box, but I had no issues with the flatness, like it's not an over roll, but due to the tag in the top left, they don't sit 100% flat. As you can see, if you cut off the tag, I'm sure it would be fine though, and it's nothing I ever noticed like in use while gaming. Yeah, I'm not sure how much else there is to say about these. If you're really like stuck, I would say the balanced is the most usable, like that would be a good word to describe it. It doesn't have like the waxy, highly controlled surface of the Control and Max Control. It doesn't have like the rough, almost carpety feeling of the Speed, and it is just like, I think anybody on a heavy mouse, a light mouse, the amount of pressure you put, it's just like a safe, easy pad to recommend. And $50 with Prime shipping, that's a pretty good deal for a mouse pad in the US. Yes, there are like cheaper options, but yeah, I mean, for a widely available pad, I don't have too much to complain about with these, but it would have been cool to see them like have a hybrid option and then some type of like very low friction, speedy option, but maybe that'll come in the future. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Any other questions you have about the pads, let me know. I know this was a kind of brief rundown. And my skate testing was primarily PTFE, the stock skates on the Viper V4 Pro for the true shroud maxing experience. I do have X-Ray Pad Jade Ultras on my Super Strike now, but due to the weight balancing and just the surface area of the skates, it's just always going to feel like a slower experience. And then I used just various stock skates and other companies' dot skates to get an understanding of these surfaces. And yeah, like I said, speed was my preference, but both that and the balance felt good for Fortnite. I was able to use them for really on and off a few weeks, but I'm not gonna like keep them in my main rotation. But if you do want like a mouse pad at a big box store, or if you're in a country that generally has worse availability, these are certainly a viable, like high quality option. Like and sub if you enjoyed. Peace out.